Hi, my name is Lydia Segrist, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some examples of multimedia learning principles. Upon completion of this video, my goal for you is that you will be able to explain the signaling principle and how it will apply within the classroom, that you'll be able to explain the spatial contiguity principle and how you can apply it in the classroom, and finally, be able to explain the coherence principle and how it will apply within the classroom. Now, multimedia learning principles, there's 5 of them altogether, but for the purpose of this video today, we're only going to discuss 3 of them. The first one that we're going to talk about is the signaling principle. The signaling principle is a multimedia principle where important content material is indicated by using cues. These cues can come in the form of an arrow, like how we have shown here. They can also be within a paragraph, where the reader will read the paragraph. The words may be in bold, the important information may be in bold, but it may also be in a different color or a different font or italicized. Any cue that you use will indicate what the important information is that you would want to give to the students. And the reason why the signaling principle is important is because it helps reduce extraneous cognitive load for the students. Extraneous cognitive load happens when the instructional materials that we present to the students are so bombarded with things that they're unable to retain the information within their working memory. So this will help aid the students in being able to use that working memory. Now I'm going to show you an example of how I would use this within my science classroom. This is a paragraph on solids and liquids. So I will teach it and then we would have a class discussion. So I would say, hello students, today we're going to talk about solids and liquids. We're going to read this paragraph and I want you to be able to tell me what the important information is when we're done reading it. What does shoes, paper, and cheese all have in common? They are all solids. Solids are things that have a shape of their own. They do not flow like liquids do. Computers, trees, and soccer balls are also solids. Liquids do not keep their shape. A liquid can be poured into a container and will take the container's shape. Some examples of a liquid are water and milk. Solids and liquids have something in common. They are both states of matter. Matter is everywhere. It is anything that takes up space and has mass. Mass is a measure of how much matter is in an object. All objects are made of matter. So students, what do you think solids are? Solids are things that have a shape of their own, and they do not flow like liquids do. Can you give me an example of what a solid may be? A computer, a tree, or a soccer ball. Maybe it's your favorite pair of shoes. Now students, can you tell me what liquids are? Liquids don't keep their shape, and they can be poured into a container and it will take the container shape. What are some examples of a liquid? That could be water, milk, Gatorade, Powerade, or any type of thing that maybe you would want to drink. And then we'll discuss these 2 forms of matter. They are solid and liquid. And what is matter? Matter is everywhere. Matter has mass, and mass is how you measure the amount of matter. And then that would be the end of our lesson in our class discussion. Next, we're going to discuss the spatial contiguity principle. The spatial contiguity principle is a multimedia principle where matching words and pictures are near each other on the page or screen. As you can see here, I have an arrow with the word arrow. The picture and the word match together. And it's important that whenever we're creating visual aids or diagrams or whatever multimedia that we're going to use, that we have the words correspond with the picture so that it's all in one area for the students to be able to see. This helps the students focus their attention on the important information, and it helps them from having to keep shifting, their eyes back and forth to different areas. And it also helps them to be able to retain the information into their working memory. And what we know about working memory is that it has a limited capacity. So this keeps the students from becoming overwhelmed with all the information. Now, how would I incorporate this spatial contiguity principle within the classroom? I would use the water cycle. So I would say, good morning, students. Today we're going to discuss the water cycle. The water cycle has many different parts, as you can see. First, we're going to discuss condensation. Condensation occurs when water vapor rises up through the Earth's atmosphere. Then the water's vapor rises higher and higher. The cool air in the atmosphere turns back to liquid water and it creates clouds. Because condensation creates clouds, the clouds will begin to be full of the liquid water and it will fall from the sky. And it'll fall in the form of snow, rain, sleet, or even hail. And now the other part of the water cycle is evaporation. Evaporation happens when heat from the sun causes the water to evaporate from oceans, lakes, and streams. Evaporation occurs when liquid water on Earth's surface turns into water vapor in our atmosphere. There's also a form of evaporation called transpiration. And this is when water from plants and trees evaporate or enter into the atmosphere. And then finally, you can see that we have melt and runoff, which that occurs whenever we have precipitation that forms in the form of ice. It'll melt and then it'll run off and it'll collect into streams, lakes, creeks, and anytime we have rain, it'll do the same thing. And that is the water cycle. Finally, we're going to discuss the coherency principle. And the coherency principle is a multimedia message where extraneous material is excluded. Now, as you can see in this diagram here, I have the arrow with the word arrow, which is very clear and concise. With the other diagram next to it, I have an arrow with the word arrow, but then I have the word arrow all over. That is confusing for the students when there's so much extra stuff in the diagram that it's hard to narrow down what the important information would be. So coherence principle helps with extraneous cognitive load, it helps reduce it. It's also important for the students because it doesn't overload the students' working memory. And finally, it also helps to keep students from averting their attention from the important information that they will need to know. Now, how would I incorporate the coherence principle within my classroom? I would use the life cycle of a butterfly. So I would say something like, "Good morning, students. Today we're going to discuss the life cycle of a butterfly." The first stage of a butterfly's life is they are a tiny, tiny egg, and the egg is laid either on a plant or a leaf by an adult female butterfly. Depending on the species of butterfly, the egg will hatch and it will begin to eat the plant or leaf for food. The next stage in this is the larva caterpillar stage. During this stage, the caterpillar will eat and eat and eat, and it will store food to be used later when it becomes an adult. When the caterpillar is full grown and it stops eating, it enters the pupa/chrysalis stage. And this is the stage where it undergoes metamorphosis to become a butterfly. Well, during this stage, it will wrap silk around itself and it will the chrysalis will form under a branch, under a leaf, or even some species of butterfly will bury it underground. This stage of the development of the butterfly will usually last from 2 weeks to a month. And in this stage, it's when the larva will start to form legs and wings and eyes and other parts of an adult butterfly. Then finally, it will come to the adult stage of its life. And during this stage, the adult butterfly will mate and it will lay eggs. Many species of butterflies will not eat during this time, but there are a few species that will get its energy from nectar. And then finally, many adult butterflies will fly from plant to plant, and they will want to find the perfect place to lay their eggs. And on average, the life of a butterfly is only 1 to 2 weeks. And once they've laid their eggs, they will die, and the whole process will start over again. I would like to thank you for tuning in to this video today. I hope that these principles will help you and that they will be able to be incorporated within your classroom. Here are some of the resources that I used in order to complete this video. Thank you.